Hello everybody, welcome to another battle report, 4,500 points against my good buddy Silas. As always, I'm going to ask you to hit that like and subscribe button if you've not done so already. We're going to flash up the lists and then we're going to get into deployment. Okay, here we are in deployment then. We are on map number 10. The deployment type was marching columns and the secondary objective was King of the Hill. You can see that my marker is actually in the ruins and that's fine because the ruins was not entirely in my deployment zone and Silas's marker is on this wall here. We agreed that it's not actually possible to be in a wall, and the secondary objective does describe being in the terrain to claim the secondary objective. So we agreed that in both cases you only had to be touching the terrain in order to claim the secondary objective. So let's just go through the lists then. We'll start with Silas's. In the top left we've got a unit of Reiters here, and then a small unit of handgunners, unit of electoral cavalry with a prelate, unit of electoral cavalry with the wizard master and the marshal and the knight commander and a prelate, bigger unit of handgunners, another unit of Reiters here, tank, steam tank, unit of rangers and a bigger unit of Reiters here. On my side, well, we've got a scouting unit of raiders here, and then down in the bottom left we've got an orc boar chariot, unit of Nasher dashers, feral orcs, another unit of raiders, goblins with a witch doctor, iron orcs with an iron orc chief and a feral orc shaman, feral orcs, Nasher dashers, oh, missed the splatterer there, unit of raiders, goblin king on a huntsman spider and another splatterer. So that is deployment. Silas would be going first, but let's just flash up vanguards ever so quickly. Okay, quick look at vanguards here then. So you can see I've vanguarded my raiders up here and Silas has vanguarded his Reiters here. Obviously he's planning to blast my raiders out of the forest with 20 something shots there. So I've moved my other raiders up here so that if he does remain facing this direction then I'll be able to flank charge him in my turn one. And then these raiders over here so shimmying around while these two Reiter units move up. The reason they look different is that one set has pistols, that's these ones, and the other has abrasive pistols, which is these ones. So that's vanguards. Okay, Silas's movement one here then, so you can see his steam tank has come out heading towards the raiders here, and a little bit of movement here with his Reiters. Interesting that he's keeping his 2 blocks stationary here. I would ask him after the game why he chose to do this, and he said that his intention was first to clear the chaff. So standing still there, similarly with the Rangers, and that's Silas's movement one. Okay, end of Silas's turn one here then, so he's got altered sight off on this unit of Rangers in the magic phase, quite rightly recognising that his handgunners are out of range for turn one because I've deployed just behind my 12-inch line. He's also got Truth of Time off on the Death Star unit here, so that's got a double maximised charge roll should it decide to charge. In the shooting phase, his raiders killed 4 out of 5 of the forest goblins up here, but the one that was there passed his discipline test. Well done him. Reiters over here did 2 wounds on the iron orcs, and the Reiters here did 1 wound on the forest goblins, and that was the end of Silas's turn one. Okay, end of my movement one here then. So absolutely loads of charges in my movement one. It's the charge of the light brigade in a big way. So obviously we've got the forest goblin raiders over here who've charged the flank of these Reiters, which has been exposed, and then I've charged a unit of Reiters with my dashers here, and they've done a standard shoot and killed a couple of them, and then I've charged at the same unit with my other dashers, and the unit has fled from those. So then I've redirected those dashers into the other Reiters unit, which has also fled, and then I've gone after them with my raiders, causing them to flee again, and then I've redirected the raiders into the other unit, causing that unit to flee again, which is why these two Riotous units are behind Silas's lines. But some really good placement play here, because Silas has very deliberately left space for them to run into, so that's really good play. Other than that, this raider over here, keeping himself alive, going to go and hide behind a rock for a bit. Goblin King out on the flank here, maybe coming after the Rangers, maybe at the Riotous later if they don't do a good job, but I've got to be mindful of the steam tank because it will absolutely squash him. Chariot heading towards the handgunners and a cautious advance through the middle. I'd be fairly happy for the Death Star unit to charge my Iron Orcs while they're at full strength, but I don't think Silas will. But keeping the two Ferals just not at a tempting charge range, really, being the idea. So that's the end of my movement 1. Okay, end of my turn 1 here then. So I've got 2 spells off in the magic phase. I've brought up a Totemic Beast just here, and I've got the big Chilling Howl off here, and that's going to affect the Rangers and the Wizard Masters range spells as well as the handgunners, so that's pretty good. Happy with the magic phase. Malfunction on my Splatterer over here, so it's taken a wound, and then the Goblins have beaten but not caught the Riotous over here, and that's the end of my turn 1. Okay, now this is the photograph from the end of Silas's turn 2. His movement was so fast, it was over so quickly that if you blinked you missed it. So we didn't take a photograph for it, but I'll just talk you through what happened in his movement. So basically the 2 Riota units rallied on the re-rollable 9, that makes lots of sense. The tank went into the Raiders over here, and the Rangers moved up, and that was it for his movement phase. So in the magic phase, he's got a Unity of Divergence off on the Feral Orcs, and despite the Chilling Howl supposedly limiting it, he's still killed off 6 Feral Orcs, so that's pretty good. He's also got Altered Sight, which he's put on the small handgunners. I think I'd have put it on the big handgunners personally to sort of negate the effect of Chilling Howl, but he's gone for the smaller one. And then in spite of that, his shooting has done nothing really. The tank though has beat the Raiders, who have broken and fled. So that's the end of Silas's turn 2. Okay, end of my movement 2 here then. So there have been no charges in my movement 2, but in compulsory movement, that Raider over here has failed his rally test and has ran off the board. And this was a calculated risk. I had a chance of charging the Riotous on the flank, which I should win, and then it was 50-50 whether I would catch them, and I thought the gamble was worth it. Beast over here, random moving into the side of the Riotous, and then the Dashers moving up into a more threatening position can go after the handgunners, can function as chaff, can bait either of these units into a long charge, and then I can counter charge with the Iron Orcs. These can go after the Rangers or even engage with some chaff later if it heads this way. Keeping the King at a distance here because the tank can still squash him, and a cautious advance down the middle, but occupying the hill over here, and that could be important later. Yeah, that's the end of my movement 2. Okay, end of my turn 2 here then. So 2 spells off in the magic phase. I've got a swarm of insects on these smaller Riotous here, trying to generate a panic test and see them flee off the board. Always unlikely with the BSB and the commander within range, but you never know. Anyway, a couple of wounds there, but no panic. And then I've brought up another Totemic Beast over here, and these are hanging behind Silas's lines to be useful later. In the shooting phase, I've got a jammed Splatterer over here. And in combat, the Beast here beat the Riotous, but the Riotous held. So well done to them. And that was the end of my turn 2. Okay, end of Silas's movement 3 here then. So still no charges, these blocks still holding back over here, obviously meaning to clear the chaff. And he's got his Rangers and his Riotous and his tank all heading in this sort of towards the centre of the action. sort of direction. You will notice, those of you who are keen-eyed, that 2 of my Veil tokens disappeared here, and that's because I forgot to take them off in my phase. So that's the end of Silas's movement 3. Okay, end of Silas's turn 3 here then. So in Silas's turn 3, I've activated my first binding scroll to prevent him casting Unity of Divergence. I anticipate him trying to hit my Iron Orcs with everything he's got, so stopping that. So he's got Altered Sight off on the handgunners in his magic phase. The Reators over here have also killed these dashers, so some of that chaff starting to get cleared. Tank has done 2 wounds on the Iron Orcs, and the handgunners have done 2 wounds on the Iron Orcs. And the Beast over here has beaten and caught the Reators. And that's the end of Silas's turn 3. Okay, end of my movement 3 here then. So 2 charges. The Feral Orcs here went after these Rangers, but they fled, and the Feral Orcs failed to catch them. And the Chariot here into this smaller unit of handgunners. Dashers functioning as makeshift chaff, and I do think dashers are underrated. For 145 points, yeah, they're not quite as cheap as your raiders, but they are almost as good a chaff, and they can do the chaff hunter job as well. So anyway, chaffing up both of these units here, enabling my 3 big blocks to all surge forwards or charge, you know, with relative safety. So that's that. That's and the Beast here running into the back of the handgunners. So that's the end of my movement 3. Okay, end of my turn 3 here then. So I've got a swarm of insects off on the Reators here, who I've noticed are out of BSB range. So I've tried to induce a panic test. They're not out of the general's range though, and they have passed on his discipline of 9, so they're okay. I've also got another totemic beast off here. I brought him on to try and breathe some breath weapon onto this unit, see if I can induce a panic test there, but he totally flopped, so that wasn't to be. Splatterer did 2 wounds on the tank, so that's a good start for the, well, not start, it's turn 3, but a good job done by the Splatterer. Chariot over here killed and caught the handgunners, who are light troops and are therefore not steadfast, and the Beast has won combat against this bigger unit of handgunners, preventing it from doing any shooting in the next turn, although it did hold. So that's the end of my turn 3. Okay, Silas's movement 4 here then, so he's charged at the chaff unit with his smaller block over here, and then it's chaff o'clock with his Reators over here. This unit of Reators well placed because he quite rightly realises that if I charge this unit here with my Iron Orcs, then I'll end up on the flank of this unit should I overrun, and then I'll get charged on the flank by the Death Star unit. Though I am stubborn, so I would get absolutely pounded, but probably wouldn't break. But I, you know, over time that loss of that first round of combat attacks, I think, would probably cost me. So good placement there, and obviously can't be charged by the Feral Orcs because the tank is in the way, so that's quite interesting. And that is Silas's movement 4. Interesting that again this block here is still stationary. Silas is 4. Okay, end of Silas's turn 4 here then. So in the magic phase, I've activated my second binding scroll, again on Unity of Divergence, again anticipating him trying to hit my Iron Orcs and whittle them down before his big block can engage with them. So trying to keep that at bay, but that's the second of my 2 binding scrolls. He's got a Cleansing Fire off on the Champion of the Reators, but that doesn't actually matter because the breath weapon is only a 6-inch range and there's a 7-inch gap here, and it lasts 1 turn, and I'm not going to charge this unit, so that's actually a waste. He's also got Truth of Time off on the Iron Orcs here, giving them a double minimised roll should they charge, but I'm not really sure why, because that unit is so close. If he flees, I'm not going to risk exposing my flank, so I would just fail the charge, and I anticipate him coming this way and engaging with me anyway, so there's not a lot I can do about that. Tank has done a couple of wounds, or maybe one wound on the Iron Orcs, and the Reiters have done 3 wounds on the Feral Orcs. The Knights have killed the Dashers, but have reformed and are now perilously close to these Feral Orcs here. The Beast has beaten and caught the Handgunners, and in so doing has overran into the flank of the Rangers over here, and that is the end of Silas's turn 4. Okay, end of my movement 4 here then. So it's charge o'clock. I've charged this chaff with the Iron Orcs. I've charged the tank with the Feral Orcs. I've charged the electrical cavalry here with the Feral Orcs. I've also activated my war cry to make sure that that charge gets in. Beasts heading up to make themselves useful, but some distance away, and the King kind of coming in from the side here, but still some distance away. Place the Forest Goblin Raiders here so that if Silas decides to help out this unit here, when he overruns, he will overrun into the Orcs, and then of course I would be able to countercharge him, and I hope that that will force him to make the only option that he can otherwise make, which is to charge the Iron Orcs in the front in his turn, also bringing a chariot around to become useful later on. That's the end of my movement 4. Okay, end of my turn 4 here then, which was brutal in the most orcish of ways. The Skull Fetish was on full capacity. In fact, I think we actually cashed in 4 Veil tokens when its limit is 3, so apologies to Silas for that. We didn't realise that at the time. We've got a Trial of Faith off in the magic phase, causing a wound to the Prelate here. Silas actually put all 5 of his Dispel dice into the attempt. I put 4 into the casting attempt, and it went through, so that's a bit annoying for him. We've got Awaken the Beast off on the Feral Orcs over here, and Bring the Pain off on the Death Star unit there as well. Shooting phase, Splatterers did 4 wounds to the Reiters, but that did not induce a panic test. And then in combat, the Feral Orcs went berserk. 29 attacks, strength 5, +1 for Born to Fight, and +1 for Awaken the Beast. And AP 3, 1 for Born to Fight, 1 for Awaken the Beast, and 1 for their Rending Banner. That's 29 attacks with Battle Focus, so that was pretty ugly. And then, yeah, they would beat and catch the Electoral Cavalry, but in so doing have got in the way of my chariot here, so that's a little bit annoying, but I can't really complain. Iron Orcs here beat the chaff and reformed, and the Feral Orcs here lost to the tank but held, and that was the end of my turn 4. Okay, Silas's movement 5 here then, so his Death Star is finally on the move into the Iron Orcs, and this is going to be brutal. This is going to hurt a lot because they've got re-rollable attacks, and they've got the old Hammer of Sigmar in there and a bunch of characters and loads of AP. This is going to hurt. Reiters also into the Feral Orcs, although I'm not sure this is a good idea. This is just giving away combat points, I think, really. But in they go nonetheless, and that is the end of Silas's movement 5. Okay, end of Silas's turn 5 here then. So in the magic phase, he's got Unity of Divergence off on his big Death Star unit, giving them a 5-up Aegis save. And you can see them ugly messes made of my unit of Iron Orcs. Killed an absolute truckload of them, but I did take out his Wizard and his Prelate. So a victory of sorts there for him in terms of the damage done, but a costly one. Also taking out the Reiters in combat here and got a wound on the tank. Lost combat, but was stubborn on my general's leadership with a reroll, and so have reformed to sort of continue the grind over here. That's the end of Silas's turn 5. Okay, end of my movement 5 here then, and it's the Beasts getting in on the action. Rear charge, random movement style, Beast style here. Flank, random movement charge, Beast style over here, and then this Beast also getting in on the tank over here, though the tank is unbreakable and doesn't care about things like rear charges. King over here closing the gap down, getting ready to come in later, reforming the Ferals, bringing the chariot around, so charge a clock later on there, and the Raider over here coming to use his throwing weapons to finish off these Rangers. That's the end of my movement 5. Okay, end of my 5 here then. So I've got Awaken the Beast off on the Iron Orcs here, and that's to give them more armor piercing to try and inflict a bit more damage. And I've reduced the strength and armor penetration on these electoral cavalry here as well, with the intention of having the Iron Orcs survive. Catapult has killed the Ranger over here because the Raider didn't finish off the job, and the Feral Orcs and the Beast did a great job on the tank. The Beast actually came in and did 2 wounds to the tank, and then the Feral Orcs did 1 as well, so the tank is down to 1 wound. Iron Orcs and the Beast won combat by 1, 2 points here for the Beast on the rear, 1 point here for the Beast on the flank, and 1 point for charges as well. So the Beast scored 4 points, so well done them. But the electoral cavalry would hold, and that was the end of my turn 5. Okay, so end of Silas's turn 6 here. Then no movement because everything was locked in combat, so just an end of turn photograph. He got Sunna's Blessing off in the magic phase, killed an Iron Orc, but the one Iron Orc survived over here because the Smite the Unbeliever, reducing the electoral cavalry's strength, means that they're wounding him on 6s, and Silas just didn't roll any 6s. So 1 Iron Orc survives, meaning that the unit remains stubborn, though we would actually win again with the Beasts over here getting 2 points on the rear and a point on the flank. So the Iron Orcs would win combat by 1, but the Death Star would hold again, and that's the end of Silas's turn 6. Okay, on to my movement 6 here then. So it is Charger Clock, Feral Orcs into the side here, the Goblin King into the side here, and Chariot on the back. This unit of Feral Orcs here not charging because I want them to be claiming the secondary objective. And that's the end of my movement 6. Okay, end of my turn 6 then. So in the magic phase, I've got Awaken the Beast off on these Feral Orcs here, making them +1 for Born to Fight and +1 for the spell. So they're currently Strength 5, AP 2, and you can see with the combined pylon between the Beasts and the shield-breaking Goblin King and the Chariot and the buffed Feral Orcs that we have beaten that unit there, and then they have been caught, and so that's the end of the game. We didn't bother tallying this up because it was getting quite late by this point, but I would say, I mean, it's obviously sort of heading towards an 18-2, 17-3-ish. Costly one though, because that Iron Orc unit doesn't come cheap. But I'm quite happy with the way that I played here. I think the defining factor in the game was the fact that those 2 big, super powerful units held back for 4 turns, waiting and waiting and waiting to clear that chaff. But that just allowed me to pick off all the other pieces one at a time and then engage with them with you know, everything at the end. So I think that's the defining factor in the game. Happy with the play of my binding scrolls. I think I kept Unity of Divergence at bay quite nicely. Didn't anticipate the overrun of the Feral Orcs, and that got in the way of my Chariot, so I could have done that better. But I'm quite happy with my spell choices as well in my own casting phase. Minor tweaks coming to my list. I'm going to be dropping the Ether icon in my Iron Orc unit because I don't think that they make a lot of difference, and upgrade 2 of my Raiders to be wolf riding Raiders just to give them a bit more range. I think that that's a more optimal build. And then into the Fading Flames tournament this list will go. So yeah, more to follow on that. Right, thanks everybody, and as always, see you next time.